Introducing Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Nose to Tail podcast. I'm Patrick Kraus with Jet Midwest. I'm here with my friend Toti. It's all the way from Iceland to join us today in Kansas City. So, Toti, why don't you give all the listeners out there maybe an overview of how you got started in aviation and what progressed through your career in aviation.
All right. So I started with Icelandair back in 2007, just by chance. One of my teachers in university had an open position in purchasing, so I took that. They didn't really have a repairs function at that time, so that's kind of what I started with. It was thrown at me, and we built that up for about 5 years. Added a few people in there, so from there I moved over to more like just a management position in purchasing, including repairs, regular purchasing, and all that. Did that for a few years. Then I ran the department for a short period, kind of a transition period between managers. And at that time, we had started working on teardowns for our own consumption. We took 3 Monarch aircrafts, mainly for engines, but we kind of got stuck with the frames. So I took that project and we dismantled that, used some of it, sold some of it. And from that, we did a few more teardowns for the same purpose, buying aircraft, dismantling, utilizing some of the material, and selling the rest. From there, Icelandair started thinking about how are we going to transition out of the 75 and what are we going to do with the 75? We've been tearing them down, as you know, for a few years, kind of 1, 2, 3 a year maybe. And that role I took kind of with me down to when I moved to Florida. Was not really a role that kind of belongs in purchasing.
Sure.
So I kind of just took that out of there and
No, was that the transition into Loftleidir?
Yes. So me and Peter, my colleague, as you know, we kind of did more or less everything we did was like third party. So it's like not really a good fit within the technical operation of Icelandair. So we got moved over to Loftleidir, which is a charter, anything to do with third party work for Icelandair. Utilizing the fleet on a down season, chartering out aircraft. We have a few ACMI operations, AM operations. So that was kind of a better fit in there.
Well, Toti, just like all professional, we have to overcome challenges in our careers. We just had some good technology challenges, so we've shed the headphones and hopefully get some great sound coming to all of our folks who are out there listening. So, Toti, we left off, we were having a discussion about kind of your history and the transition into Loftleidir, which just kind of summarize, Icelandair as the operator really is there to fly passengers. And when they had opportunities to create revenue elsewhere, they created Loftleidir as that resource to handle those third-party leases. Or it sounds like you guys also ran the assets through that same organization as well.
Yeah, so Loftleidir initially was made to utilize the aircraft during the down season of Icelandair. Icelandair's operation is very seasonal, has been historically very seasonal. Majority of the traffic is in the summer. So to utilize the winter schedule better, or the aircraft during the winter schedule, Loftleidir has had the role to do short-term leases, charters, even just like special trips, and stuff like that.
So I know is at your facility there usually once a year, twice a year. I also prefer the summer. I've been there in February, so it's a little bit nicer in July. But I can say you have some unique things you do. You have a strategic partnership with at some level with Air New Guinea. You got some aircraft that you work with them on.
Yeah.
And then you guys also fly down to Antarctica. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the Antarctica and kind of how that came together and have you been? Yeah. Have you been able to get onto one of those flights? I'm curious.
I have not. I haven't. I thought about it, but I haven't been there. We have actually a couple of people that have been there, gone with the aircraft and landed on the ice, and looks pretty cool. Interesting. We do two types of trips to Antarctica. It's both tourism and then scientists. And they fly into separate airports, if you can call it that, on the ice. It's actually starting right now at this time of year. And it'll go through, a couple of months, 3 months maybe.
Nice. Yeah, I saw the videos of them doing the ground service on the aircraft as it pulled up on the ice runway, and I thought, man, that's got to be a little tricky. But if they can find any airline who can fly 757s into a frozen rock, probably the folks at Icelandair that could get that figured out for you. Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, we've had experience before with extreme cold, much colder than Iceland. We had 3 aircraft in Yakutia for a good while.
Where is that?
It's Siberia.
Okay.
Yes, somewhere around there. And that's another place that's just extremely cold. You can't turn off the APUs. You have to warm up the gear while you have the aircraft on ground so it doesn't freeze, stuff like that. So that was probably 5-6 year program that we did with them. You mentioned Air Guinea. That's a little bit different. That does not utilize Icelandair fleet at all. We have 5 aircraft there now, 76 and 73. That's just their operation.
Okay.
And it's just an aircraft lease.
Well, that's good. Again, a little opportunistic, I guess. That's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned when you started talking about your career that you went directly we went into a purchasing role, supply chain role.
Mm-hmm.
What did your schooling look like? What does schooling look like for someone in Iceland, and then how that transition happened?
So I studied business. Has nothing to do with aviation at all. This is my first aviation job, so to speak. I was working at a bank at that point.
Very exciting.
And no, I hated it. I kind of took that job to prove to myself that banking is not my thing. But it was just what everybody was doing at that time, 2007, everything was booming. It was an easy decision for me when that opening came up. Paid about the same anyway, so it's more technical. You're closer to, aircrafts are amazing things that, very complicated, fascinating in a way. So that just was a much better fit for me.
Well, certainly there's a never-ending challenge when you're in aviation, as we're all aware who are in the industry. So it's interesting, right? So you come in with a business degree, you go into the purchasing or supply chain side of the house. But I know that just from working with you for the last handful of years, that you've actually got quite a depth of technical knowledge that you've developed. And what really led to that for you?
I don't know, just out of interest. I'm technically minded. I've always been interested in any kind of machines, cars, boats, airplanes. So it kind of comes to me naturally. Icelandair did or has done a good job of getting you kind of familiarized with what you're working with. We've done courses that give you the general rundown of an aircraft, systems, to the hydraulic systems, all that. So that helps a lot. Just being around it.
What a great thing though to give your staff. I have dealt with hundreds of airlines in my career as a salesperson, and a lot of times I'll talk to the sales team, and I'm like, "Hey, you sent me this part number for this spoiler," and the person in the ring doesn't know what I'm talking about, and they've been in the purchasing role for a decade plus, and they don't really understand what a spoiler is or what it does or any of those things. It's very challenging to come across. So it's great that Icelandair saw that, hey, here's a way to educate our people and make them stronger, because it really is a challenge when I'm trying to help somebody solve a problem. And they just know that they've got this part number and they need one of them. It's a much different to help me help them.
Yeah, it gives you a better understanding of what you're dealing with, and how you can solve the problem. Because you have to think out of the box all the time. You might be in a location that's an impossible location. So it just helps to know a little bit more about, what you're doing.
Maybe what else is it that Icelandair has done that's really maybe unique? I know you've got customers and vendors as operators around the world. What do you think they do that's really good? Maybe out of necessity, or maybe one thing that Icelandair themselves really is excellent at?
I think they're just flexible, and the network is flexible, and that probably comes from being on an island in the middle of the Atlantic. Weather can be this and that, and the conditions aren't always great. I remember one time when I got stuck in London because of fog. Yeah, I spent the day in London. It was like nothing serious to me, but got stuck there because they shut down the airport. Next day I get into Iceland and I'm driving from the airport and it's just a whiteout. Can't see anything. But the aircraft is still landing. So yeah, I think the pilots, they have a reputation of being excellent pilots. in any conditions.
That's good. I have to say, I've taken quite a few Icelandair flights and usually pretty fantastic results. I haven't had any issues so far, except I did have a flight that got, they had to switch airplanes on me, and I ended up with the in-flight entertainment. There was none of it in English. I talked about that one time.
Okay.
And that was an interesting 6 hours on that flight with no English speaking.
Yeah.
I had to read my subtitles on my little tiny screen. It was I still made it to where I was going. That was the important part.
Pick up any Icelandic?
Absolutely not. I no, thank you. It's awesome. We call you Toti, which we appreciate, and everybody out there will appreciate. How do you actually pronounce your name?
Thorarinn.
Thorarinn?
Thorarinn.
Thorarinn.
Yeah.
Are there lots of Thors to shorten that out? Are there a lot as a name? Like, is that like Patrick?
There's a lot of names that have Thor in it. My brother is half Thor. I'm Thorarinn. My dad is Thorarinn. My son is Thorður. So it's a lot of variations. It's a common. Thorarinn itself is not a very common name today. It used to be, but it's kind of an older name.
I appreciate Toti because it's much easier for me to spell and remember. I struggle sometimes when I talk to the folks over there, and I'm like, so difficult.
Yep.
And they know it. They know it. They cheat.
Yeah, we're pretty used to that. Yeah, you're not the first one to
get a couple cocktails in them. They're just fine.
Yeah.
Talk too fast. I can't understand anything.
We'll continue this discussion on the next episode of Nose to Tail, a podcast presented by Jet Midwest. Don't forget to please like and subscribe to our channel.